Can you see me now?
Yes.
Am I a little bit in the screen? Because
You are. It's
okay. Yeah.
Don't worry, look, you are very pretty today.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm now making a whole construction to put my mobile phone with tape. So.
Shall we begin?
I think so.
Yeah.
Can I request everyone to put themselves on mute, please? Otherwise, there will be a bad echo. Thank you. Good afternoon to everyone who's joined in from India, and good morning to those who have connected from Belgium and other parts of Europe. My name is Malini Dutt, and I represent the Port of Antwerp in India. Thank you for joining us today in the final of the 3 episodes of the Imagine the Future Beyond the COVID-19 Pandemic series. This is a joint initiative between the Port of Antwerp and CII. When we were conceptualizing this webinar series, we were already in the midst of so many webinars and what we call the webinar fatigue, that the question did come to our mind, should we raise this? While nothing ever replaced face-to-face meetings, we believe that through this initiative, we have made a small effort, especially in these uncertain times, where we believe that it's impossible to almost have these big gatherings. We have brought together the maritime, logistics, shipping, and international trading community together on one platform. And most important, since it has been a hard year for all of us, the idea was to generate some enthusiasm and positivity through the encouragement given by thought leaders of business in each of our episodes, and to also learn the way in which we can tackle the future in a more resilient way. We have succeeded in the sense that you as audience have participated in large numbers, and that only gives us more encouragement and motivation to exceed expectations next time. Coming back to our final episode for today, I'm overly excited for the next 1 hour. We have 2 dynamic speakers with us, coincidentally having strong links to Antwerp. Shipping and logistics are 2 crucial links to the international trade value chain. We will hear from a man who has a very dynamic track record of successfully undertaking business decisions. And also this year, in an uncertain time, he has had some really good milestones. I think there was a request from many of you that Port of Antwerp should also bring together the perspective of a European shipping line. And today we have also a speaker who's representing such a shipping line. Shipping also runs in his blood, and his organization has very strong links to India. But first, as customary, let me introduce you to our moderator for today, Mr. Luc Arnotts, who's the Vice President, International Relations and Networks, Antwerp Port Authority. Luc, over to you.
You're on mute, Luc.
Am I hearable now?
Yes.
Is it? It's oh.
Yes.
Apologize. Thank you, Tom, for helping me here. So I was saying good afternoon to all of you in India, and a good morning to Belgium and to this part of Europe. And I love these introduction words really. Now for the 3rd time, as we head for our 3rd and final episode of this 3-series webinar. Following the overwhelming response to the inaugural webinar with the ambassadors of India and Europe, and the second one focusing on private sector, where we had Mr. Dinesh of TVS and Luisa Santos of the Business Europe, who shared their views on the future, we now move on to the last episode of the Port of Antwerp's first India-Europe webinar series. Needless to say that these discussions are close to my heart as they concern the business of ports in general and our port, the Port of Antwerp. Ladies and gentlemen, our discussion today focuses on the impact of shipping and logistics on international trade in the new world order. And I'm pleased to announce that I'm joined by 2 industry stalwarts for this discussion. Please allow me to introduce them to you. Starting with Mr. Shashi Kiran Shetty. He's founder and chairman of Allcargo Logistics, chairman of Ecu Worldwide. And Allcargo Logistics is India's biggest integrated logistics service provider and a global LCL consolidation leader. The group operates in over 160 countries through more than 300 offices, employing more than 10,000 people, generating a revenue of around 1.2 billion US dollar. And under Mr. Shetty's leadership, the group has had several successful global acquisitions. And I'm, of course, proud to mention this one. A significant one is then the Belgium-based Ecu line, which is now Ecu Worldwide, whose revenues were, at the moment of the acquisition, almost 5 times that of Allcargo Logistics. Mr. Shetty was confirmed with the Belgium's highest civilian honor. He got the distinction of Commander of the Order of Leopold II by His Majesty King Philip in 2015. And I was personally present at that moment, which was a great honor to me. It was really fantastic. But it wasn't the only title that Mr. Shetty got. I also refer to the Lifetime Contribution to Freight Award at the Global Freight Awards in London, Entrepreneur of the Year in the Services category by Ernst & Young, Global Visionary at the Economic Times Family Business Awards, and the Global Indian Maritime Personality by the Maharashtra Chamber of Commerce. So very welcome, Mr. Shetty. And if you allow, we will use the first names. We know each other quite well. So Shashi, thank you very much for joining us here today. And our second team member on the panel is Mr. Tom Demolder, who is Managing Director of Hapag-Lloyd Benelux, raised in Antwerp. So you can understand that my heart beats faster also for this connection to Antwerp. Mr. Demolder has an international career with Hapag-Lloyd, started in Belgium, moved 7 years later to Genoa in Italy, built up Hapag-Lloyd agency network in the Mediterranean, and then another 7 years later he moved on to Turkey to build up the Hapag-Lloyd's own organization in cooperation with their joint venture partner. And in 10 years' time, the Turkey volumes grew exponentially and the office became leader in Europe regarding quality, innovation, and efficiency. And then in 2015, and we are glad for that, Tom, you came back to the Benelux organization with offices in Antwerp and Rotterdam, and you successfully integrated the merger or the acquisition of CSAV and United Arab Shipping Lines. So, and needless to say what Hapag-Lloyd is, of course, but still I will do it. Hapag-Lloyd belongs to the leading ocean carriers for the trades transatlantic, Middle East, Latin America, and intra-America. And as one of the largest global liner shipping companies in the world, operates 230 modern ships, I hope I'm right, Tom, with around 13,000 employees in 388 offices in 129 countries. And Hapag-Lloyd operates also one of the largest and most modern reefer container fleets. Tom, very welcome, and thanks already here at the beginning of the webinar for your time and efforts to join us here. Dear audience, you must be assured by now that we found 2 distinguished and knowledgeable speakers with very strong international background, working in groups that have a truly international spread. You heard it, more than 100 countries for both companies. This can't go wrong, unless it would go wrong with technical issues, but content-wise, this can't go wrong. Also, dear audience, do not hesitate to raise your challenging and intelligent questions in the Q&A box, which we will take after the initial interaction with Shashi and Tom. So let us begin. Shashi, can I start with you for the first question? Are you on?
Sure, please go ahead. Absolutely.
Okay, Shashi, good to hear your voice. So once again, good to have you here today. Nice to see your face. You look healthy and well, so that's a good start. And I hope you and the whole family and the whole company is doing very well.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we are doing well, and it has been a great, not a great, but we managed the crisis pretty well.
That's good. But perhaps you could start with that. Just a few words on how a big international company like yours basically reacted to the crisis.
Yeah, to begin with, obviously everybody were worried about the uncertainty when the crisis hit the world, and we all were afraid about repetition of the financial crisis that happened in 2008-9. That of course the impact lasted for a couple of years, but this was different. This was very scary, and we all got together. The senior management started to brainstorm how we can withstand this crisis, and started meeting almost every day, talking about what is some of the things that we can achieve very quickly. How do we operate in a worst scenario? How do we manage the crisis? How do we make sure our people are healthy? How do we make sure that there are enough people to support should there be any need to take care of our people? We obviously got ourselves engaged in moving the IT infrastructure to the homes of the people, because they all had to work from the home, which we realized as the crisis went on. And looked at very in depth what are the costs which are in a way we could eliminate or temporarily reduce during the crisis, started to talking to our vendors, customers, and the communication went across down the organization to be strong, to be resilient, and talking positively that crisis, yes, it is there, nothing we can do about it, but look at it as an opportunity to make the organization more resilient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you. That's a good start. Perhaps Tom, you can just in a minute say how Hapag-Lloyd reacted to the pandemic.
Yeah, sure. Also for me, warm welcome and thanks for the invitation, Luc.
Yeah, great to have you here.
So a little bit comic, to be quite honest, from our side, especially here in the Benelux. We just before the pandemic, we were discussing with the staff and an external consultant, with involving more livelihood from the staff. And should it be possible that we work one day a little bit part-time from home? Mm-hmm. We had the same with the head office. Yeah, what will we do if somewhere an earthquake will happen? And is our business continuity plan, are they working? And we were breaking our heads and working on the theoretical side of the business when all of a sudden we got overwhelmed by reality. And that more or less when we said on Monday, yeah, it will not go so quick, etc., etc. And are all these Excel sheets which we have to deliver to stock needed to be prepared? And to be quite honest, on Friday, 99% of staff was working from home. But we realized with that, first of all, two main issues. The health of our staff is the most important. Secondly, of course, like every big company, everything stands and falls with proper IT. And so that's definitely, we were not 100% prepared for it, but we were very flexible and could react quickly. But we have realized even much more, of course, that we have to invest on the IT also to support these kind of things with laptops and proper headphones and Wi-Fi at home for staff, etc., etc. So that's definitely, I think, a nice takeaway that we were so flexible and agile that we could implement it on 3 days' time. On the other hand, yes, indeed, everything stands and falls with proper IT. That has proven to be very strong in our company.
Thanks, Tom. It's from both of you, I hear this resilience and the flexibility. And I think we can really be proud as a sector that basically it's what we hear all around the world. The logistics sector has proven to be agile and resilient. So I think it's something that's also in the DNA of our business. Also for us as Port of Antwerp, we remained 100% operational. And I would say three things: agility, resilience, and cooperation. That's something we learned. You can't do it on your own. And it was only by cooperating that we were able to take the best out of this difficult situation. So I think we can be proud about our sector. I think that's a good start for the discussion. Shashi, another angle. The Indian government released recently this India Maritime Vision 2030. And one of the different goals is to increase the cargo flows from India. But when I read the document, I also hear in the communication of the Indian government things like the Make in India policy, the vocal for local, which for us sometimes feel like protectionism and restriction of international sourcing and trade. So it could have a negative impact on the cargo volumes between India and other countries. What is your take on this? Do we understand it wrong? So I feel a bit of a tension between the document ambitions and other policy actions. You're on mute, Shashi.
First of all, look, I want to start with a very positive note in this crisis. One thing great that has happened to our industry is the shipping lines started making lots and lots of money. Okay, so which came in which came in which
We
came
should
in
say
as
that.
a great news, because we would like to see our industry healthy. We like to see our industry attract investment, right kind of investment, and our industry needs right kind of employees. It should attract talent in our industry,
Yeah.
and these things can only happen if the industry is in a healthy condition. And it's also very important that a very strong shipping line and the logistic companies are required, and the port companies are necessary, because end of the day, we have a huge responsibility of moving goods around the world. The supply chain is a lifeline of human beings. Okay, and if the supply chain industry is not healthy, it is not good for the trade and commerce of the world. Okay, the world will pay much in volume for the industry not being healthy. Okay, so the industry can invest in technology, industry can bring in quality, industry can bring standardization, and everything is possible only if industry has attraction for people to make investments and make money out of it. Okay, so that's very important. Now coming to India, in this crisis, the Indian economy has degrown by about 23%. It could be even up to 30% in that quarter. Okay, and now the all predictions indicate that India will degrow by about 10% from a growth of on an average of 5%. That is a 15% swing. Okay, and there is a tremendous amount of pressure on the government to find jobs for the billions of people we have in this country, 1.2 billion people in this country, right? They have to be kept engaged. And Indians, as you know, are very smart and hardworking people, and young people. It's a consuming industry. It is an aspiring community, right? And over the years, also what happened was that there was so much of imports that is happening to the country at the cost of the domestic industry. Okay, this is what happens sometimes. The freedom gets abused, right? And I think the way I see it, this was the time, like how companies looked at the excesses done by the company. It is the time of the government also to look at what are the excesses that the governments have done in the past 15 or 20 years. So all that they are trying to do is to clean up the policies of the government and make it more investor friendly, make it more opportunistic for the country to create more jobs, and in the process also do a lot of reforms, which the government of India has remarkably done in the last 6 months, right? And they have given so much of subsidy for the small and medium industries in the country. And all these are already showing positive result in terms of the economy already coming down in terms of growth. And on top of that, also we have challenged with the crisis on the border, with China. Of course, that is also putting a lot of pressure on the economic conditions of the country. And India is definitely standing as a great attractive destination for future supply chain to move as an alternative for China, because a lot of people don't want to trust China anymore. They don't want to depend on one country, and we can all see what happened. What is the impact in a crisis like this by over depending on one country? So India is preparing itself to position as the alternative destination for the realignment of the global trade. Most of industries are moving closer to their shores. Like, for example, factories are moving to Mexico, which is closer to China, right? A lot of factories will move to India and moving to India and Indonesia and Thailand as an alternative to China, right?
So do I understand you well, Shashi, that the things like vocal for local is more like optimizing the local situation and is not towards falling back on your own domestic market? India wants to remain that international partner?
Absolutely right. That the local, the whole strategy is, why should India import the Indian idols from China for worshipping? why would you bring toys from China when India can manufacture their own toys? There are commodities like this which you don't need another country to manufacture for it. Okay, I don't, Indian government said up to 250 crore, that is roughly about what, $30 million of procurement, the only Indian companies can source for the government. So these are certain things which I think is adjustment. Every country does those adjustments to create your country to remain healthy. That's what they have done.
Tom, perhaps your view. You guys are active on the Indian market, but also on the Chinese market. A thought I had now, or things I read, is China is, of course, looks like being already post-corona and is so faster than the rest of the world. India, Europe, okay, we try to do this, what Shashi mentions, multi-sourcing, trying to produce more in our own area, nearshoring. But China has, of course, this advantage that they are in a kind of post-corona already. The trade is working well, the factories are running well. What's your view on this? Do you see it also in the figures that China is picking up faster than the Indian connection, or how does it work?
Yeah, I think it's not a secret to say that time being, yes, indeed, the exports from China are booming, and that both ways, the direction to Europe, so the Europe-Asia trade, but especially also the Trans-Pacific. So yes, indeed, China is booming, but if, as Hapag-Lloyd at least, we look also to our India figures and the exports from India, and we see that in 2020, we will have more or less the same volumes as we had in 2019. So despite COVID, our volumes from India, the exports from India remained as strong as the years before. And we have seen we see the same with China, although that they are now, of course, overperforming a little bit more, but we see more or less on yearly trend basis as Hapag-Lloyd the same, that our yearly exports from China are in line with those of 2019. But if you look to the last weeks, yes, indeed, the export demand in China is booming like hell, which creates a lot of pressure on the whole system.
Shashi, is that something you're afraid of at this moment? I mean, while we are still full in COVID-19 pandemic, that China now could take advantage for a short while of the situation?
No, I think, the China, like Tom said, is almost out of the crisis. Probably they had the vaccine since quite some time already. That's why probably there is no spread that happened other than Wuhan.
That's an original thought.
Yeah, it's probably turning out to be probably right. And their business is booming. Their economy is back on track, growing over 4 or 5%. That's quite remarkable for the size of the economy. Probably that's the only economy which is growing. I think the risk is that obviously some of the governments, some of the countries which are doing economically so poorly will have to rethink their strategy. How do they, come up with consumer demands? How do they come up with their export program? How do they start operationalizing the whole economy? Not to allow it to go for lockdown the way the lockdown happened in the past. Probably there will still be more lockdowns. And now the companies and the government have found a way around. How do you play some kind of a musical chair, right? It is playing the orchestra. Something goes down, somewhere you come up, somewhere go up, somewhere you come down. So, right? It is something that we have figured out, the economies. And also the good part is the medical support system has also improved quite dramatically. As you know, that the capacity of the beds have gone up, the medications have been better and better. The doctors and the nurses are now far more equipped to deal with the crisis. PPEs are manufactured in most countries, or there are enough stock of PPEs. So I don't see there is a great risk, and the vaccine is around the corner. So I see things are only going to improve from here.
Okay.
Look, if I may, so
yeah, of course, please.
I fully agree with Shashi, and I think the cake is big enough so that both China and India can benefit from the growth. I don't think it will have to be a choice. Is it or China or India? I think the cake is big enough, and I think both countries are strong enough that they both can continue to grow. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's positive. Thanks. We'll come back on the actual situation, but I would like to pick up another subject now. It's relation, because we have you here, shipping line and forwarder. How is that relation going? Tom, question to you. You know, as an Antwerp co-citizen, that in Antwerp, the forwarders have played an important role in building the port to the strength it has today. But yeah, forwarders sometimes view shipping lines as competitors with the range of services provided by shipping lines and the direct approach of shippers. Is there a way around it where both parties can coexist in the future in the best way? And what would be your views on that? How would that collaboration in future look like?
Of course. First of all, I must say that we as Hapag-Lloyd, we disagree with that statement, and we don't see it like that. We have always had a very strong relationship with forwarders, and be it small or be it big. So, and also looking to our portfolio, this is more or less a 55-45 split between NVO and BCO, and the 55 is in the favor of the NVO. And we see that this is a more or less over the years a rather stable percentage-wise. So we don't see a trend going backwards or forwards in any of the directions. So we really see forwarders, be it global or be it local, as partners. Some of them see that, yes, indeed, but I think it might, of course, also be fueled by actions of some of my competitors, which are moving in a different direction, but Hapag-Lloyd not. We are not investing in that direction because, yes, indeed, we very clearly see that forwarders, NVOs, and shipping lines can coexist and should coexist even. Yes, indeed, we as Hapag-Lloyd especially also, we are a door-to-door carrier, so we are investing, we have always done, in the inland part, and we will even further emphasize on that. But I see also there no threat or whatsoever against the forwarder market. And also the forwarders are using our inland services, be it some of the local ones or some of the very, very big ones. So we really don't see anywhere there a threat. I can imagine that some of the smaller ones maybe are. And there I would like maybe even to be a little bit challenging. And I think, yes, indeed, that some of the forwarders, of course, they have to look to their future. And they have to look to their customers and to their customers' needs, and they have to especially look into the innovation part, what they should have done. But if forwarders do that, the same as we shipping lines do that, we look into the innovation, we look to what our customers needs, and I think there is a bright future for both of us, and there is no problems with coexisting whatsoever. And I'm pretty sure that that Shashi will fully agree with that view also, that his company has a right of existence and that it's possible to work in harmony together with a shipping line such as Hapag-Lloyd.
Yes, of course.
Evident. I give the floor now to Shashi. Shashi, how do you react here? And I'd really like to hear from you. How does a forwarder, 3PL, 4PL look like in the, say, the midterm future?
Yeah. You know, in my point of view is very simple. Okay. First of all, each one of us have a very different role to play in the entire logistics supply chain. The way I see it, a shipping line is a very specialized business where you have high amount of interest in capital assets and containers and port assets. They are more asset player while giving us services. Freight forwarders represent the BCOs and look after the interest of BCOs for air freight, sea freight, third-party logistics, transportation, last mile, first mile, etc., which is a very different DNA compared to a shipping line business. As far as we are concerned, we are a NVO. We are a smart carriers. Okay, we are the Uber of shipping because we don't own assets. We provide a carrier service. Okay, using the shipping lines boxes and using the shipping line ships and their ports terminals, while get the business from the freight forwarders and consolidate them in containers and ship it out, and use third party for transporting the goods for the last mile to the factory, etc. Right? So our DNA is very different. So all these divisions have happened in a natural way because of the culture, because of the requirements, specialization, the mindset, etc. Right? I don't consider shipping line as my competition at all, because I can say for sure shipping line will not get into a LCL consolidation business ever in the future, because that business is something the shipping lines have taken out from their system, because it's a very complicated business, low margin business for a big company like them. And this needs tremendous amount of collaboration between origin and destination offices. And there is a lot of other value added work that goes behind it, which a shipping line will find it very difficult to do. And also it doesn't give so much of money as profit. So why would a shipping line waste their time in doing LCL business? That ship has sailed for them. Okay. Yeah. As far as the freight forwarders are concerned, yes, there are reports about some shipping lines trying to become an end-to-end service provider, which I don't grudge, because that is their strategy. Okay. And they have their reasons to go after the BCO business, and many of them have traditionally been carrying BCO business directly. So they're trying to increase their share of wallet from the current customers, or trying to get new customers who are BCOs, which is rightly so in an airline industry, for example. The airlines go directly to the consumer and corporations rather than using a travel agent. Okay. The shipping, the airlines don't like Airbnb or a digital booking company, booking.com, for example, right? So they do not like that, because they take away their share of the profit. They ask for discount, they ask for more and more commission, and that comes to bite you sometimes. The senior executives of the shipping lines and the airline are always subject to these kind of a question. You're giving away so much of your share of the ocean freight. What are you doing? Why can't you do something yourself? I think this is how the business, the boardrooms operate, right? So the way I see it, I think all the constituents of the industry need to have their own strategy. How do they survive in the future through the crisis and through the digitalization? Okay, because digitalization is going to remove a lot of middlemen.
Yes, picking on that, Shashi, Tom mentioned also IT as a very important element already 2 times. Yeah. My question, India has a few of the big players like your good selves, but has also many single-sided forwarders, right? Smaller players who have only 1 office or 2 offices. Yeah. Their added value, because if I look at the big boys like you, your added value, a part of your added value is the size, multi-location, the network, and let's also call it the financial means to invest in IT.
Yes.
Isn't that going to impact the landscape of forwarders in India, because there are so many smaller ones?
Freight forwarding industry will consolidate, like the shipping lines have consolidated. NVO industry is going to consolidate in the years to come because of technology and because of fall in the margins in custom clearance, for example. You can't make money if you're only doing custom clearance. As a forwarder, you have to do value-added services, ocean freight, air freight, 3PL, transportation, what have you, right? So the way we see it, small and medium freight forwarders are one of our biggest long tail of customers, right? We have to protect their interest, and we have to come with some solutions how to safeguard their business with our digital intervention to protect them and protect their business and their customers getting bombarded by large freight forwarders, for example, right? So we are working on innovations, how we can support the small and medium freight forwarders, as well as continue to serve our large global freight forwarder esteemed customers like DHL, Kuehne+Nagel, and Shankers, and DSV, and Agility, and Toll, and all these guys. Mm-hmm. We would love to continue to do business with them, support them, and while we have to maintain our long tail of customers as well, because they are our bread and butter as well.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Tom, it's an open goal, but the word consolidation fell in the forwarding world. Are you willing to give a comment on further consolidation in the shipping lines world? Sometimes you read that it's still not yet enough consolidated. Do you have some thoughts on that? Can we expect further mergers still in the coming years?
Let me please first specify that this is my personal opinion, not a company statement. We are also a stock listed company, so we have to be very careful what we say. So if you ask my personal statement, and I have not studied macroeconomics, but if I look to the consolidation which already happened the last years, then I think, to be quite honest, that we are nearly at the end. I don't believe personally in a super merger, because I think there is not so much money, because Shashi mentioned in the beginning the extreme big profits of the shipping lines. That is because we compared it with losses before. I think the earnings which we make now are normal earnings. Our return on investment, even in the best year ever, 2020, is still a normal return on investment for any other company. That's why I don't think that there is so much money to buy, yes, indeed, these heavy asset other companies. And anti-competition law is not, of course, very strong. So I think if you have a super merger which will cost a lot of money, and then you have to kick off again 20 or 30% from your joint turnover because your market share starts to be too big somewhere in one of the many countries which have rules and regulations are not allowing you, what is then still the sense of it? On the other hand, is still somewhere very small niche operators still going to be consolidated in a big group? Most probably, I think, yes, that certain things will still happen in the coming years. But I don't see pretty soon one big one still further merging with each other.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Tom. I see we got a question from the audience on consolidation, but I think we touched upon it, so that's nice. Tom, question on the actual situation, the equipment imbalance, empty container shortage. You could expect this question, of course, these days. Also in India, the coronavirus lockdown has led to a crippling shortage of containers, hurting exporters who are battling to take advantage of economic recoveries in other countries. So you, as one of the major shipping lines serving import and export container trade to and from India, how can you help the Indian trade in this situation?
Okay. First, maybe before we say how we can help, maybe also a little bit more information what happened at the end. As I mentioned before, and also Shashi mentioned it. So the exports from India, they are pretty strong. And also, if we look to the Hapag-Lloyd figures in 2019, we had more or less 600,000 TEUs exports out of India. And if we look to the year-to-date figure, we are already at 590,000. So I suppose that the exports in 2020 will be higher than the exports in 2019. However, if we see on the import side, more or less we have lost around 100,000 TEUs. So the trade was not totally balanced. We had 600,000 TEUs export and 550 import. Exports remained the same, but on the imports into India, we have lost 100,000 TEUs in 2020. So the imbalance due to COVID and to the change of economies has indeed increased dramatically our equipment imbalance. So it's not something which was long-term there, or it's not something that we have created. No, the highly imbalanced has been created by COVID, and yes, indeed. So we are now, of course, working very hard, our organization in India, also even together with the government, to try to find solutions to this. Try to find solutions on long-standing imports, of course, that the equipment gets free for the exporters. We try, of course, to increase again the imports into India, to try to increase the turnaround, etc., etc. And we see the last weeks a positive development point of view that we cannot say that the problems are over, but we see improvements that the imbalance is again getting a little bit smaller. And then we come to the second part, of course. Yes, what do you do then if there is an imbalance? But also there again, we see as Hapag-Lloyd that we do as much as possible our efforts to get the empty equipment into India. This is, of course, a very costly issue. And also Hapag-Lloyd is a company. We have a bottom line result. So you try to reduce your costs as much as possible. And if you have to do these costs, and we will for sure continue to supply India with equipment, as mentioned before, of course, Also, yes, indeed, China has an extremely strong demand, and the rates on the spot market, not the average market, but the average rate, but the spot market has increased so much that definitely also quite some equipment goes to China to supply the demand over there, because some people are willing to pay crazy rates time being. One of my competitors, that's the advantage of the online and the digitalization, has now advised a spot rate from China to Poland of $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
So we continue to do our utmost to supply India with equipment, and that I can guarantee you that we see also over here. But it will still remain a challenge to fulfill all the demand which there is time there over there. And we hope and expect, yes, indeed, that also the imbalance will naturally decrease again because the imports into India, they are growing again. So.
Okay. Tom, thank you. I want to come back on the rates in a second, but first a reaction from Shashi on the imbalance. Is it indeed? Do you feel that shipping lines are doing their best to create to work against this imbalance and to have sufficient empties?
No, I think under the circumstances, keeping in mind the crisis and the demand for equipments, definitely the shipping lines, why would they not make their best effort to reposition containers? They would for sure. And I'm one of those believer that everybody exists in the business to make profit. So I have no issue there. And when there is a bigger demand, you charge your rates. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the way our business is done. So I'm more than confident that the shipping lines will do a very fair job and a very honest job, and they are there for a long term, and they have an image to protect, and they have a job to do for years and years to come.
Yeah.
Look, maybe I can give one example also to make it clear how challenging it is, and not only from the financial part of the business, but as like Shashi said, it's in our own interest, of course, to supply these empties, because then we can fill them with the exports from India. Yeah. But there are, of course, also a lot of operational constraints. And in Europe, for example, time being, UK is really a problematic area. The imports into UK have really exploded, and the ports are not really coping with the additional volume. So all terminals in the UK have implemented move count restrictions on vessel calls. Yeah. And very often when we discharge our full imports and we are halfway of loading our full exports, they say, your move count is over. Please leave my terminal and go. And we would love to take the empties from the UK because they're just standing there. Yeah, but we are not allowed because our move count restrictions, because the ports are just not able to cope with all the volume time being in the UK. So there are also operational constraints which makes our job more difficult and more costly point of view, the whole imbalances which exist not only between Europe, because let's be honest, there is not one trade lane in the whole world which is balanced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tom, is it mainly the southern British ports or is it all over the UK that you face this operation?
It is more or less the whole UK, but the southern more, but it's the whole UK which is really problematic time being. And we see a surge in imports into the UK, which I've never seen before.
Because I had this commercial thought that Antwerp is not congested. You could use ships to go to the northern British ports with your cargo discharging in Antwerp, and then you do an internal UK distribution setup, and everything runs, and you'll be the hero.
I suggest that you give a call to my dear friend Olivier Verhagen and ask if he's happy with all my Irish cargo which is standing there and blocking his terminal, because you discharge it in Antwerp, but it has to remain over there because the terminal in Ireland is not able to accept it. So it's regretfully not a solution, because I talked already for that.
So I was just hoping you choose the best port in the UK, you serve it from Antwerp, but okay, that's another... I'm coming back on this rate level. Of course, we can't talk about rate levels, obviously, but we all read in the press 3 days ago that China puts pressure on CMA, CGM to keep a lid, a kind of ceiling on the record container freight rates, which has been driven up by recovery in demand following the corona pandemic. How do we have to see that? So Chinese are putting pressure on a certain shipping line. Please put a ceiling on your rates. How should we react to this? Tom, perhaps you first, and then Shashi. Love to hear your thoughts as well.
First of all, of course, as you can imagine, I don't like anyone putting restrictions on the height of the revenue I can generate. But I think it's more important to put that a little bit in perspective. Our first 9 month results have been made public. We are not a family-owned company. Our books are 100% transparent. The average freight rate in 2020 is 3% higher than 2019. So what is happening, of course, is that these extreme issues are extrapolated in the press totally out of context. Please look into our books, and you will see that our average revenue is 3% up against previous year. If anyone here in the panel thinks that an increase of 3% on your average revenue year over year is extreme and should be put boundaries on, raise their hand, but I will not agree to that.
Okay. Shashi, how do you react?
No, I think, the governments do not come to rescue when you are in trouble, right? When you make losses and your company go bankrupt, very few governments come up and bail you out, right? So I think so interference on what rate you charge, what are the conditions of the contract is a commercial matter. I don't think the governments really have a role to play there. It's a free market, right? That's my personal view. But having said that, I think there need to be some kind of a sense of fairness to the customers and to the trade overall. So that's pretty much what I have to say about it.
Okay. No. Wise words.
Well,
I
just want to say, yes, indeed, what Shashi said, that's for me the most important. It is this fair attitude.
Yeah.
That you as shipping line or as NVO have to obey towards your customer.
What I like a lot is the open discussion that shipping lines and forwarders have on this as well. I mean, at least there is discussion and there is communication. That's already something good. And thanks also, Tom, for giving also this clarification in figures, because of course you only read about the spot rates, but you don't read about the regular contracts. And so an average increase of 3%, it doesn't sound like that the situation is completely in another balance with 3%. So thanks for that clarification. I want to respect the time. We want to stick within 1 hour. So we have got a good 10 minutes. I just have 2 questions, one to each of you, and then we're going to see if there is something from the audience. And then we respect the timing of ending within 1 hour. Shashi, I want to take the occasion. You invested in Belgium, you invested in Antwerp quite some years ago, but you stayed there, you developed the business. So how do you look back now on the investment, and how do you see the future in terms of your investments in the European continent?
Yeah, I must tell you, Europeans are very smart. You don't let us make money easily.
We have to close the webinar now. Go on, Shashi.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's increasingly difficult to make decent profit in Europe. Because the cost of operation is very high. The margins have fallen considerably. There is no room for us to add more value-added services. Then you come into the territory of the freight forwarding community. It becomes sensitive, and then so it's very tough. And more importantly, it's also very difficult to find good, hardworking youngsters in the industry. Which people don't want to come and work in the logistic industry, unlike in the past. That's our experience. I don't know whether it's the same experience for the shipping lines. Tom, I'd love to have your view on that, because this is a very important matter.
Is it global or a European problem more?
No, it's more global, but I think Europe is even more. I think Europe.
Okay.
Because everybody wants to get into the IT, digital, pharmaceutical, research, startups. There are a lot of new opportunities that have come up for smart people. In our days, it was different, right? In our days, it was more about shipping was a very attractive industry. Logistics was an attractive industry. I don't think that level of attraction exists. That's the reason I started with a comment that I'm happy that our industry leaders make money and everybody make money, so that when you make money, then you can share, right? Then you can attract talent. If you don't, you don't. Then you don't get real quality people to come and work for you. So that's a global problem for the logistic industry, but intensity probably is high. My personal view is Europe and the Western world, right? Even if you look at Latin America and countries like that, it's very difficult to find people, good people to work. But yes, yeah.
But Shashi, I hope you're positive about the own investment, because I understand quite well that it was the beginning for you of a big part of your internationalization.
Yes, yeah, of course, yeah. You know, on the base of the investment what we made, then we were able to build a global business, and we obviously invested a lot of money in cost rationalization, route optimization, offered more direct services and increased volume of cargo, and then you load more cargo in a container, achieve greater efficiency. So it's a game of efficiency which is there. And obviously now with the digital challenges, we are trying to position our company to be the leaders in the digital opportunities. So I am very hopeful. And we are the only company in the NBO industry who have our own offices running around the world, pretty much everywhere. All markets which matters, we are operated by our own offices, and we are the only company who have a global system which is homegrown and operating ERP operating across all our offices. So the integration of the data, integration and the collaboration of our offices are far superior compared to your bunch of network who work together. Rather than operating on your own offices. It also allows us to work with all the global freight forwarders. We have rate contracts with all the global carriers. So all this are advantages which were not there in the past. So you keep innovating, keep doing new things, keep reducing your cost, keep increasing your volume, expand your geography. So that's what we did, and we are still a very healthy company. We are almost a zero debt company in our Ecu Worldwide, and we're very proud about what we achieved. Thank you.
That's great. There might be people in the audience who could reach out to you, I guess, in the coming days with this news about a debt-free company. But okay, that's another issue. Yeah. Thanks, Shashi. Tom, last topic shortly before we see if there is any question. E-commerce. We don't have much time, but still love to hear if you as a shipping line are also considering this as an important growth market, B2B e-commerce, B2C e-commerce.
The digitalization for sure we see as the importance factor of survival towards the future. But it does not always has to change your business model also point of view. That we discussed already the topic of coexistence between forwarders and shipping lines, and that can go in hand. That should not always go one against the other. I think the biggest development we had, and we started it already before COVID, but it took definitely speed turn with COVID. It's our quick quote, so that you can get offers online. And yes, indeed, that's then open to everyone. Yes, indeed. And we have seen that, yes, indeed, meanwhile, already 15% of our volume is handled via the quick quote channel. So not only the number of offers, but the amount of volume which is handled through that. If we then come to specifically also the Indian market, then we see, yes, indeed, and I think that's related to, of course, the high education level of the young people in India. And anyway, their affinity to IT, we see India within our worldwide scope as one of the countries using this tool the most. So our customers in India use the most. And to be quite also, Mr. Shashi's company is at our top number one with percentage-wise using of this new tool. It's of course not ending only, so seeing also that also the freight forwarder market is interested and can use efficiently these digitalization tools. It doesn't stop there, of course. We try to make information available much more easily via the online channel, but of course also the bill of lading downloading, as we had no one in the office, of course, with COVID. the EBL the bill of lading downloading instead of the hard copy paper took, of course, a spike during COVID. And now we are launching, for example, that you can amend your own bill of lading instead of writing to Hapag-Lloyd. We give that tool. You can buy free time online. So we have invested quite a lot over there. And I think definitely the future of every shipping company, but also the logistic company, will be in digitalization. But I still see that in harmony with the forwarders market also.
Okay, lovely. I see some questions coming in on this digitization, but I think you just answered them. I've got a question here. How do you see digital collaboration across participants in the flow? But that's a bit what you mentioned, forward a shipping line. Perhaps, Shashi, you want to comment on that question from the audience? The digital collaboration, is that going to be a big challenge for India or the opposite?
No, I think it depends on what we are trying to collaborate on digitalization, right? Yeah, I mean, is the industry ready to do online booking, track and trace, book your cargo through the platform? Yes, we offer all of that. We are now even offering to onboard your shipping line, shipping bill through our platform, right? So nobody has to enter all the data. Once entered, they all come into the system. And there are more such releases will come in the future. We are also trying to offer what you call as a white labeling product for small and medium freight forwarders, so that they interface with their shipper using our platform, so that they do not have to do multiple data entries, and they instantly quote to their customers the rates, whatever they want, to whichever trade lanes from wherever in the world that could be. So we are offering all those solutions to the customers, and this is getting now more and more fast-tracked. So there is a tremendous amount of collaboration from our side, and we are always happy to look at what the customer requirements are, and that's why we have an interface with the customers on an ongoing basis. What are their pain points? What is that they would expect from us? And we are investing heavily on that to serve their need, so they remain competent, and they remain protected from competition from big boys.
Oh, thank you. We're getting many questions from the audience, so I want to thank the audience as well for the interaction. You gentlemen really created quite some reactions, but I also see that a lot of the questions have been answered during the discussion. I get one here, for instance, on the future of the small forwarder, but Shashi, I think you commented on that one in the beginning of, so we don't have to go in that again. There is a few reactions on concern on the financial situation of the forwarders. One here is Mr. Shetty. What do you think about the future of logistics in terms of margins, with the new technique startups coming in every year, resulting in more transparency? You already said something, but perhaps you want to comment.
No, I think like I said before, it's very, very difficult to make money on pure custom clearance, or particularly on the export side. Probably the import side, one could still make some money, but I think that also will disappear over the period of time as the government starts to make ease of doing business more and more in India. So there has to be alternate revenue models that the forwarding industry, including us, the logistic industry, need to find, right? And that's one of the reasons why Allcargo kept on expanding into different segments of the business. In our quest for growth and quest for survival, let's put it that way. Some work, some doesn't work, but you have to make it work, and what doesn't work, cut it out and move forward, right? For example, that is how we got out of the coastal shipping business. For example, we invested in 5 ships, and then we realized that that's not the business that we see has a future, and we decided to move out of that very quickly, right? So those kind of ideas, yes, that's what I'm saying. When the margins are lower, that drives consolidation. So I think, if a right valuation is found, probably sometimes good to sell a company and collaborate with the startup companies to see how mutually both of them can survive and grow.
Sashi, seeing from the reactions in the queue box, there could be a longer discussion on this one, but we have to stop it now. Thanks for your thoughts on this. Very last, before we close the webinar, Tom, to you. People appreciate Hapag-Lloyd, and you mentioned is respecting forwarders, not touching to their base, but others do. I think you mentioned it, and it seems to be a concern for different people on the audience that. That shipping lines do take a part of the forwarders market by directly approaching shippers. It's a thought more than, but if you want to comment on this.
As I said, it's of course a free market, and I think from time to time forwarders step a little bit into business which we prefer to carry, and sometimes the other way around. So I could only then encourage everyone to invest properly into your business, that you have a right to exist, be it on the cost competitive side or be it on the service side or on the innovation side. And you have to see which segment of customers you want to cover, and you have then to clearly see what are their needs, and make sure that your business model is worthwhile for them. So yes, indeed, I don't say it's an easy game, and I think from there is competition, and from all sides. And that is there, and I suppose it will continue to be there, yes. You have to make sure of your own right of existence.
Sashi, you wanted to comment, but that's the last intervention because we are getting out of the time.
My quick comment on this is, I think that's what you need is a ethical neutrality. What is ethical neutrality? Ethical neutrality is a business that comes to you, then you don't go after that business through the back door, right? New business and all that is fine. You can compete in a new tender and then participate. Those kind of things are okay, but there need to be a certain amount of respect, and neutrality is important in any business. I'm not referring particularly to shipping lines. It applies to anybody, right? And last point, when I said debt-free, I'm not talking about Allcargo being debt-free. I'm talking about Ecu Worldwide is on net basis is debt-free. That's just wanted to bring that question, because I'm also a public company. I should not be saying something which is not correct.
Sorry, Sashi, but we have a very mature audience. I'm sure they will interpret in the right way. Gentlemen, we are at the end of the webinar. I really want to thank both of you, Tom, Sashi. It has been a very interesting exchange of thoughts. I think the audience also enjoyed it, seeing from the reactions in the chat and the Q&A box. You really were open on the insights and very straightforward in your opinions. We really appreciated this. I want to thank you for time and effort again. Hope we can meet again in the near future, but then in person, and enjoy a good drink. Yes, we should do that. So thank you.
Tom, thank you very much. It's a pleasure meeting you, and very happy interacting with you, and we'll stay in touch. Same with Luke, always. You are my, godfather.
No, thanks a lot.
Yes, and hope meeting in India in 2021. So
absolutely, thank you.
So then my last words are, of course, to thank everybody in the audience. Also, some good friends there. I can't mention all the names, but I love to, when I see the list of names, that's wonderful that our good Indian friends are interested in this EU-India webinar series. So this was a first effort from our side with this type of webinar series. The pandemic gave us this opportunity to reach out via new avenues, such as this digital one. And we hope that through these discussions, we were able to add value to the thinking during these difficult times. But the story does not end here. We will be back next year with a new theme and a new group of guests. So I invite everybody to follow on the social media to join us in 2021. Thanks to CII, our partner, and I would, last but not least, love to thank our local representative in India, Ms. Malini Dutt, who has prepared all this and made it a big success. Malini, thank you very, very much, and goodbye to you all. Enjoy the continuation of the week and a fine weekend. Thanks.
Thank you all, my good friends from Mumbai, India. Bye-bye.
Hello, everybody there?